Hey everyone, welcome to the BQ Report, episode 2. Today we'll be talking about the article from the Wall Street Journal. This article is about the Trump administration and how the election has been changed for the worse. Okay, Mr. Trump kept up defiant rhetoric on Twitter over the weekend, saying Saturday, hopefully the courts and or legislatures will have the courage to do what has been done to maintain the integrity of our elections in the United States of America itself. The world is watching. Now, President Trump has been on a variety of tweets over the past couple of years, even during the first 100 days of his term. He's always been the type of person to tweet a lot and show the world that he's a tough guy and that he can pretty much do whatever he wants and nobody will say a word. And I think the reason that he's so flamboyant with how he speaks is that he just decides to forget every moral and underscore every democracy on the planet, including Soviet Union, Russia. And that actually reminds me of one point about Russia and how during the first couple days of his election, of when Donald Trump actually went into office and became president, the Russian collusion was a huge deal. And I remember that vividly, seeing Vladimir Putin get involved into his scandal and wanting to find out more information about the Russian scandal. I do know that Jared Kushner was involved. I also know that the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, was also involved into that collusion. Many FBI agents were involved into that collusion as well. It was a very, very hard time for the Republican Party, and a lot of members of the GOP and the Democratic Party were just dismissing his rhetoric altogether. Most of them did not want Trump to be in office, occupying the most powerful position in the world because of the Russian collusion. And I read a lot of articles that were kind of hinting at the idea that Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, was pulling all the strings for the U.S. political stances at the time. And I tend to believe that right now. And so, now we're at a point where nobody's really talking about impeachment hearings or the Russian collusion anymore. It's all about the election fraud. It seems like it's a new thing every day for this president. He can't really stick to one single issue at the time. It's always one scandal after another, another different position on the topic. The thing about Donald Trump is he never has only one position. He has multiple positions that he constantly tries to argue that are not really viable, and they don't really show a way to move forward on a path where the United States is in turmoil right now, considering the political ramifications of the pandemic, coronavirus, COVID-19, and a lot of things revolving around that aspect. It's difficult to find a leader, especially on the United States stage, where everybody's able to look up to this leader and say, hey, okay, can you please guide us, give us some guidance, and understand why this is happening? From the beginning of the pandemic, there wasn't really an explanation as to why this was all occurring. Why are all the businesses getting shut down? Why are schools closing? Why are colleges and universities shutting down and going online? Why are businesses closing? Why is everything? Why do we have to remain 6 feet apart? And of course, the CDC kind of jumped on that and gave a lot of good information regarding those topics on their website. And Dr. Fauci came out with a lot of good interviews, and that was good too. However, the problem remains though, is that the president has not really stated anything above those people. And I think, being the most trusted the presidential thought leader of the office in the most powerful position he occupies, he's supposed to be a leader. He's supposed to want to have people look up to him as a role model, right? And so he's not doing that, and he's never done that. I think maybe a couple times here and there during his presidency, he maybe hinted at a couple times. I think during rallies, when he does rallies, he kind of hints at leadership and integrity and honesty. However, it all just seems like a big facade on his part. And so the reason that he kind of seems like one of those populist presidents that many people call him is populism. Trumpism pretty much equals populism at this point. And the reason I think people call him that because he appeals to a base that prefers celebrity-like behavior, celebrity-like rhetoric, and his base doesn't really seem to care about like the real issues going on in the country, such as abortion, the critical issues, abortion, taxes, military foreign policy, healthcare reform, legislative agendas that Joe Biden and everybody else would obviously have a stake in. He just seems to just not even consider those options at all because they're just way too far left on the spectrum, I guess. But they're not even that far left on the spectrum. I mean, if you take a look at this political field, you have the far left, which is like universal health care, and more, less military intervention, gun control, stuff like that. And then on the right, you have less taxes, higher military spending, and less social welfare programs. And so it's just a simple matter of where does this president lean on the spectrum? Nobody seems to know the answer to that question. And so we're stuck in a place where the president has policy agendas and the American people can't even understand what those things are. It's a shame that has to happen, that we have a president who doesn't even know his policies. And so, basically I think Joe Biden has done a great job presenting some more, let's say, evidence for what he's supposedly doing when he becomes president on January 20th. And I'm happy. I look forward to the future and seeing what happens with Joe Biden's policy platforms and how he carries out those policies through the executive branch of the office from the legislative office. And it's going to be really interesting to see that going forward. Now, I would like to highlight and capitalize on this article right here. It's called Trump Continues to Challenge Election Results as Legal Options Dwindle. Okay. So he's still trying to fire back on those people who actually are saying that the election wasn't rigged. He's still trying to say these are rigged elections and we need to treat them as such. Okay. Nobody really understands the stakes that this election had. Going back to Mr. Biden's, first time announcing his presidential run, nobody really cared about it like they do now. If you think about it, many of the Republicans were simply siding with Trump based on, allegations. Maybe they support the party because they're loyalists. They're very loyal to him. They care about what he has to say and what he's trying to do in the office that he currently occupies. However, the Democrats just fire back at Trump at any time they get. They are attacking Trump. They are criticizing him at every angle. If Mr. Trump says anything stupid or unsanitary, they're going to call him out for it ASAP, which I find as a great feature. And it's definitely a strong suit. It may seem like it's very hypocritical on their part and very patronizing sometimes, but I think it's necessary. It's necessary evil to rid out any of those people who may harm our democracy, who may become enemies. And so President Trump has definitely been an enemy of the Democratic Party. But then again, Joe Biden's team has been respectful for the most part, right? I mean, if you think about his policy platforms and you take a look at what he actually stands for, this man has been 47 years in the Senate, 47 years working in the Senate. this guy knows what he's talking about. Plus, he's passed, many reforms too. He was the vice president of Obama's administration, and I think he did a great job as president. As vice president. And so I have no reason to believe he won't do a good job as president of the United States. I think that he's, even Vladimir Putin said something about this earlier, which I kind of want to pronounce here. Vladimir Putin was really, I think Vladimir Putin very much likes President Biden, and he wants to see some action between those two parties. The reason I say that is because President Trump was really too nice to Putin, and Putin treated Trump as another person in his area. He didn't really treat him as a president, if you think about it. Considering the Helsinki campaign, when they met in Helsinki and they had that meeting, it looked like they were very friendly and nice and respectful and courtesy, and I think that's true. But at the same time, it wasn't a really competitive atmosphere, and you need that competitive atmosphere to bring out the best of two people, two candidates, two presidents, two people going at it head to head. You know what I mean? And that's the reason that Putin sees Joe Biden as a potential challenge. Now he can challenge somebody to do their best, basically. Take their executive powers and use them to the fullest, right? And so, even Mr. Biden's chief of staff is criticizing the president of undermining democratic process. And honestly, at this point, it doesn't even matter, because you're going to get criticized. No matter who you are and what you do, you're going to get criticized. Biden has got criticized before, easily, for his policies, for his opinions, for his sound bites, for anything that he's been doing. He got criticized, and you can't really change that in people. They're going to judge, but at the same time, at least he respects Joe Biden specifically. He actually respects the office itself and understands the weight it holds to people. Because some people, like for example, take Obama for example. He did not think of the office as like a playground, right? He actually considered the office as like a real life-changing, world alternating atmosphere that had the ability to affect millions and millions of people with policies that affected elderly, young children, young generation teens, and everybody in between, college students. And this man treated the office like it was a sanctuary for goodness, to do good to the world. And honestly, he hasn't done anything like that since Abraham Lincoln. I never seen someone treat the presidential office like that since Abraham Lincoln. And so basically, that's why he's one of the greats. No doubt about it. He's one of the greats. I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind that President Barack Obama was one of the greatest presidents of our time, and in every generation. And so I think Donald Trump paved the way for like a mediocrity to reveal itself, while Joe Biden's kind of like he has to revive that superficiality, and he has to like work twice as harder to resuscitate a lost democracy that was presented by Obama and just totally dropped by Trump. And I think the way that he has to do that is by explaining the qualifications that make America so great, and not just saying making it great, like actually doing the work that makes it great. Like, for example, passing reforms that create opportunities for minority children, minority individuals, people with lower incomes, people that come from bad socioeconomic backgrounds and stuff like that. That's like I feel like the main key part of not Trump's campaign, Joe Biden's campaign. And the transitioning team has been a reflection of those qualities and attributes, which I find absolutely wonderful. And the transition team, if that keeps going how it is, if it keeps I think the transition team is a perfect segue into the presidency, and establishing that team together makes everything so much better now that I think about it. And the reason I say that is not just to be like, okay, I'm championing Biden's campaign. I am championing his campaign, but at the same time, I'm evaluating the weaknesses and the strengths of Joe Biden's campaign strategy. And that's kind of the reason why he won in the first place, right? Because you see Mr. Trump, he just kind of thought he was going to win it by holding all these rallies. And he held a rally in Lansing, Michigan. He held 4 rallies in Michigan, Battle Creek too. He held rallies in Pennsylvania, these key swing states, Wisconsin, key swing states that he hoped to turn red, which, I mean, he had a fair shot. He kind of just fumbled the ball there, though. So, it's going to take some more effort from him, moving on forward. But now it's too late. He's already been washed up by Joe Biden's team. And Joe Biden didn't really have to lift a finger as much as Trump. He simply presented his arguments, presented his legislative campaign, told everybody about his policies, and it was smooth sailing from there. He didn't really have to attack Trump on his character, but he did attack him on his character a little bit, which was, I found that morally repugnant. But even so, it wasn't even an attack on him as a person, more of an attack on what he's done in the office, which I agree with some of his points where Trump hasn't really done, Trump really hasn't done anything as president. He hasn't really, I think the only thing that I can recall that he did that was really good was start the Space Force, right? And so I don't really consider him as one of the greats. Restart the NASA Space Force. That's a good feature, and he'll be remembered for that. But looking back on it, a one-term president, not so good, not so high, not a very low approval rating, not so hot either. He did a lot of stuff in the office that kind of pissed a lot of people off, and everybody just took it for what it was. And now they had a chance to reelect, and they said, no, we're not going to reelect you. So they're going with the better option, Joe Biden, and I think they made a great choice. And so these are my thoughts on the current state of politics, and I look forward to seeing Joe Biden's campaign move forward in the future. And his transitioning team has been great so far. So I would like to thank everybody for listening and watching if you have so far, and have a great day. Bye-bye.